in an attempt to tarnish the inauguration of the Venezuelan president last January 10th. Likewise, the members of the Integral Defense Operational Zone ratified their support to the Bolivarian Revolution, to the democratic election of the Venezuelan people last July 28th, and to the struggle for the defense of peace of the nation. In Venezuela, the third plenary session of the International Communication Congress continues this Monday at the International University of Communications. Representatives of social organizations, journalists, and delegates from over 100 countries take part in the meeting to build an action agenda for the Hugo Chavez Popular Communications International Network. Participants will choose the people to be at the helm of this international network in charge of drafting an anti-fascist action plan. This Congress is taking place amid a controversy about social media disinformation and media manipulation regarding facts on Venezuela. In this context, let's go live to Caracas with our special envoy, Yunus Soner, who has all the details of everything that is happening in this day of the International Congress.
Good morning from here, from Caracas, from the International University of Communication, where the third edition of this International Congress on Communication takes place. Delegates are gathering here, as you see behind me. They have had a very productive meeting, I'm told, yesterday on Sunday, where 8 different workshops have been held on topics regarding artificial intelligence, on topics regarding cultural sovereignty, media dominance of corporate institutions, and how to create a network of defense and counter-offensive, because that is the purpose here, I was told by the international president of the International University of Communication here, Fernando Buenabad, who told me it is about creating a line of defense against imperialist attacks via media and communication systems, but also about creating a position of counter-offensive. Much discussed is creating a network of the networks that was pronounced here yesterday on Sunday. Now today this work will continue, and in that context I have a very interesting guest, because we are talking about media attacks from imperialism, well, and their homeland is the United States. So I am very curious what Ms. Gabriela Silva from the Party of Socialism and Liberation in the United States is going to tell us about the role of the United States in this media attack. How do you perceive this attack from the American position?
Thank you so much for having me on and for the questions. Well, in the United States, the mainstream media, the corporate media, really acts as a mouthpiece for U.S. imperialists. And they take part in the U.S.'s long campaign to try and delegitimize the Venezuelan revolutionary process and the sovereignty and will of the Venezuelan people. We also recognize that these attacks in the media that spread misinformation about what's really happening on the ground here in Venezuela are also part of the sanctions that the U.S. continues to impose on Venezuela, as well as other violent attempts to try and destabilize and overthrow the Venezuelan government. And so the media plays a critical role in trying to confuse the people in the United States, to have them stand against their own interests and against their sisters and brothers here in Venezuela.
That's exactly a point I would like to ask you about. We have been talking a lot about media attacks against Venezuela as well as other countries in the global south. How do you in the United States suffer under this media domination by corporations as an American citizen?
Yes. Well, I'm here as part of a delegation of young activists and leaders from the United States that represent different social movements, and we all, as part of the work that we do on the ground in the U.S., the battle of ideas is a huge part of that, because we are also demonized and repressed within our own country for supporting and fighting for just causes in the U.S. and around the world. So be it for our international solidarity with Venezuela, with Cuba, with Palestine, or be it because we're fighting for socialism in our own country. We see the way that the media turns against us, again, to try and manufacture consent and confuse people to thinking that we are we are part of the problem and we are their enemy in some way, rather than the billionaire class that is really the one exploiting them and people around the world.
And I would like to ask her how the workshops have been working yesterday on Sunday. How did you perceive the work of these workshops? How did you perceive the atmosphere there?
I mean, it's fantastic to be a part of this exchange with so many people from around the world here. We spoke yesterday in our workshop around communication and popular democracy, of creating people's medias, of expanding the work that our organizations are already doing to amplify our message, to amplify the truth in the face of constant misinformation that is, part of the media arm and the attacks of the U.S. government within the sphere of the battle of ideas, right? And so there's work that we do in our communities, talking to our neighbors, but then there's also work that we do on these platforms like social media that we know is under corporate control. And so we talked about all the ways that we could work together to really strengthen our communications work, our media work, to continue to show what is happening here, what's happening in our movements, because the corporate media will never show, that millions of people came out to the streets in support of elected President Nicolas Maduro on January 10th. They'll never show the reality that, tens of thousands of people are out in the streets in the U.S. demanding for an end to sanctions against Venezuela and Cuba, demanding for an end to the genocide in Palestine. This is the reality that we live in. In the U.S. right now, we have a government that continues to send aid to Israel, despite that over 60% of the population has been calling for an end to U.S. aid to Israel, an end to the genocide for months. And so these are the stories we have to tell and have to show, because we can't count on them to really express the political will of the people on the ground. And so I came here to this conference and I saw the seriousness and the sacrifice of everyone to continue this major task we have ahead of us, of really, and this is something that Chavez understood very well and developed in a very sophisticated way here in Venezuela. So there's a lot that we can learn from history, there's a lot that we can learn from the work that we're doing today, and I'm just so honored to be able to take back everything that I learned both here in the Conference for Communications as well as in the Festival for International Anti-Fascism. I feel very fortified, and it's very rejuvenating to know that people here in Venezuela are paying attention to the political work that we're doing on the ground there, and that the young people in the U.S., people of conscience in the U.S. are very curious. All of the content that I've posted on social media since I've been here, I mean, I have so many friends messaging me, asking questions, liking. It's because it completely contrasts what they see in the news every day. And so they're hungry to know the truth, they're hungry to hear the stories of the people on the ground here in Venezuela, and I'm just happy to play a little part in that.
Thank you very much. As you see, marvelous. Thank you very much for this great statement. Great joy facing this great effort, major effort, which has been led here by Venezuela, but which is also part of other countries' struggle, even in the United States, as our guest told us. That's why there are representatives of almost 100 countries taking part in this Congress, who will today discuss more steps of action and maybe possibly a final declaration indicating more concrete steps ahead. This is for the time being. The Congress is about to start. Now already you hear in the background the speeches. So this is for the time being all we have to tell from Caracas, Venezuela.
Thank you, Junius, for the updated information, and thank you to your guest for her statements. We'll stay in touch for upcoming news brief on everything that is happening at this Parliament Congress. In Venezuela, officials of the Integral Defense Operational Zone continue to express their support to President Nicolas Maduro, reaffirming their commitment to defend national peace and sovereignty. From different regions of the country, the members of the Integral Defense Operational